And as always, if views and comments are welcome on this show, look for us on our social media handles. I join you on TV, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Remember, the hashtag is The Pulse. Once again, you're welcome. My name is Francis Aban. We begin today with some analysis of what has happened after the 2016 elections and a declaration from last week. Today, some legal experts are now advocating an independent audit of the Electoral Commission as well as the ballots following last Wednesday's presidential and parliamentary polls. Now, it follows concerns that, among others, the Commission's e-transmission system was hacked, leading to a delay in the announcement of the election results. Speaking on the Super Morning Show today, legal practitioner Ace Ankoma said an audit will help to throw light on the challenges the Commission faced during the period.
Explain a lot of the things that the PR said that the chairperson did not reproduce. These are some of the things that caught my attention, and I thought that, look, we whilst congratulating the EC for the voting process, its post-vote management of the release of the information was awful and shambolic, and on that I don't think I'll give them even a single thumb up. But the voting process, I think they got that one right and spot on. But the critical thing, the transmission, was really, really awful, and we need to ask ourselves, is it that they do not have the facilities? Maybe it is the facilities, and this is one of the things I've learned through working with Occupy Ghana. We take on public institutions, we fight them and fight them and fight them and fight them. Then finally, when we sit down with them, we realize that, Jack, they just don't have it. They just don't have it. So there needs to be an audit of the EC system. If we paid money for the telcos to provide an electronic transmission system and it tanked, we need that process audited. And Ghanaians need to be told why the system did not work. Did the system really not work? And if so, why did it not work? We need independent audit of the EC itself after every election. Very well. The parties are required to file their accounts. Yeah. I am suggesting that after every election, the EC itself ought to be subjected to an independent audit, because somebody from outside the EC has to explain to Ghanaians whether indeed there was a hack of data or even an attempt to hack data. Because what has happened then is that things get mashed up in public, and a simple system put out by the NPP to gather their report is now being put out there, interesting, Mr. McMahon, by some of the people in your party and some of the people outside your party, that system somehow hacked the EC. Now, it is, with due respect, it's only a person with due respect who is brain dead who will say that a system that collects independent data, parallel data, and it is the party's own data, somehow hacks the EC system. It's unbelievable. But unfortunately, this is being fed out. So people in your party who want to claim undeserved credit, there's a recording out there on social media, somebody saying this is what you did. Kojo, I went to see. At the end of the journalists went, media went, diplomatic corps went, and the gentleman, Mr. Anochi, was open. He showed you everything he was doing. Where was the hack? So EC has a lot of explanation to do, but maybe they have a serious logistical challenge and an independent audit. Look, Kojo, let me ask, how many elections have we had? Have we ever had an audit of the ballots? We always hear the 536,000 spoiled ballots.
Well, on this part, the Dean of the Gimpa Law School, Kofi Abochi, observed that the post-electoral process appeared not to be well managed and also backed the call for an audit of the process.
It is important for us to remember that election survives a lot on perceptions, and where there's a lack of information, rumors reign. Unfortunately, I think in this particular respect, that's what appeared to have happened after the elections. While, as is mentioned, the electoral process itself, the day of the election itself, was highly successful, the post-election part left a few things to be desired. The key point to understand is that the law recognizes the conflictual character of elections. Elections are a contested process. Parties are contesting, and the contested space is a conflictual space. So people are not going to agree. Political parties are ultimately going to defend their interest, and in the process, some will come out with facts which are actually not facts, and you can have confusions. It is therefore important that we recognize what the law creates in this circumstance, i.e., the EC has to go ahead and declare the result it has. the EC doesn't have to do a pre-declaration audit. You do a declaration of what you have once we have complied with the process. And the process is there's been an election, there's been a validation at the polling station level, pink sheets have been signed. Once you have gone through that and you have certified by your returning officers that indeed these have been complied with, the EC has to declare them subject to a post-declaration audit. And that's why the law gives remedial options, i.e., in the event that the EC declares results and a party thinks that there are clear evidence of malpractices, electoral malpractices, including overvoting, among others, that party can actually go to court and have the election overturned. We've had parliamentary elections in Ghana overturned. We've had presidential election. Well, we've not had a presidential election overturned, but we've had parliamentary elections overturned. We've had a presidential election contested to the ultimate and a declaration made validating a particular president sitting in office at the time. And that was now outgoing President Mahama. So the process is clear, and therefore I found it a bit surprising and almost disturbing. And the reason I found it a bit disturbing was because the country appeared to have been sitting on tenterhooks at the time. Given what we experienced on the day of voting, it was quite regrettable that we had moved from excellence to a dangerously looming, degenerative prospect for the country. And I found it very dangerous and very risky. And once you started having statements being issued by the observers, you knew that something was amiss. So I think that we have a contrasting scenario here. An excellent voting day and a post-electoral process that appeared not to have been well managed. Fortunately, I think the EC ultimately did what he has to do. At this stage, it may appear to be some post-mortem, but as Ace has mentioned, it is important for us to take an audit of this, because I guarantee you, what can plunge Ghana into chaos is not any of the collateral things. It is the EC. The EC is the body that can make declarations and is the body that can literally unmake things. And so if you have the EC, as it were, especially when it comes to the contestations, not managing the contestations well, the parties can take a cue from that, and some of them can garner all kinds of bravados that can create dangerous chaos for this country. So I think that while we have scaled this, and again, it's a pity because I do not want much of the glory taken away from the new commissioner. I think when the transition was made, many were those who were skeptical about whether or not we're going to have a successful EC as we used to have under the former Dr. Afarijan. I think by and large, she is one of the biggest success stories of this election. And unfortunately, the management of the latter part, the declaratory part, appears to be taking that shine out of the otherwise glorious moment that she should have been enjoying at the moment. And so by and large, I would still want to say that she's been a success as far as we're concerned at the moment. But the part dealing with the declaration, some lessons must be learned. Moving forward, we have to improve that, because it is at that stage that parties can begin taking advantage of churning out all kinds of things, garnering their supporters to do all kinds of things, and parties who think they may not be doing well on the numbers can also, as it were, mobilize the supporters to create chaos and all kinds of things moving forward. So I think there are some lessons to be learned in that respect, and I would just want us to pay attention to that.
So the legal minds have shared their thoughts on the elections and the need for an audit, but what has been the Electoral Commission's own assessment of the 2016 elections, the pitfalls and the performance keys that need improvement? Well, my colleague Maxwell Abagba has been finding out more from the Deputy Head of Communications at the Electoral Commission, Mohammed Yusuf Aiba.
For those outstanding ones, especially the ones with the results being contested, like Sola, Tuna Kalba, Tamale Central, and then Upper West Achim constituencies, what's the latest regarding these outstanding constituencies?
When you add up the aggregate numbers, it has no effect on the total declaration. So as we stand, it has no effect. So I don't think they are going to pursue it anymore. It is when the total number of the votes in those constituencies would affect the total, turnout of the presidential election. That is when we would have gone back, especially if it were that the results was cancelled, then it meant that we had to go back and do a fresh poll so that we can get a figure and add it up with the total figures, which may make an impact. But as we speak now, it has no effect, and therefore the commission would not pursue it. And I'm even sure that the people contesting will let go, because at the end of the day, it has no effect. I am told that we have 1 or 2 issues with some parliamentary results, but I don't know the constituencies now. We're still looking at it. So as and when we receive the details, then the commission will take a decision on that.
But for the outstanding constituencies that I mentioned, you say that the results are insignificant to the whole electoral process. But somebody would also argue that it is important for us to bring closure to this issue, because if you have an aggrieved party alleging that votes, there was a rigging for a particular political party, obviously they will still be furious, and you need to bring closure to that. So if you are able to establish that nothing of that sort happened, there was no voting, if you bring an end to the issue, they help both parties. What do you make of that also?
It doesn't mean that the commission would not look into those issues, but then it is an aggrieved party that has brought the issue up. It would depend on the aggrieved party to go to court, to pursue the case. And if the aggrieved party does not pursue the case, there's nothing we can do. But administratively, we would still look into it to establish whether the concerns that were raised or the allegations that were raised was actually true.
On the issue of overvoting, the commission released a statement on you said you were looking at some possible instances of overvoting. Some section of the public were very critical of you. They were saying that why would you want to discredit your own, electoral process when the parties involved in the elections, as at the time you were releasing that statement, had not raised concerns about overvoting. How widespread or how rampant was the issue of overvoting?
Initially, the commission had received reports in some of the constituencies to the effect that polling agents were refusing to sign the summary sheets for onward transmission to Accra because they said they were overvoting. So what the commission sought to do was that, okay, if you claim that there is overvoting, there are processes that the commission would go to establish whether actually there was overvoting or not. It wasn't that the commission was admitting that they were overvoting, because you work with stakeholders. They've raised concerns. The concerns have not been brought formally to the commission, but we were trying to say that, okay, if you raise a concern that there's overvoting, there are processes that the commission needs to go through to establish whether there's overvoting. You just don't claim and then we say, okay, there's overvoting, because if there's overvoting, now we have the transmission from the summary sheets, we also have the polling station results, and we have the constituency collated results, so we can always cross-check with the source document to establish whether the claims that were going around were actually true or not. It wasn't that the commission was admitting that there was overvoting.
But were those claims made in the media to warrant, a statement, a press statement being issued out? Because if the claims were not made in the media, then it didn't warrant you releasing a press statement on the issue of overvoting, because some were saying actually that what you did then was to give the political parties a missile, to jump onto, to attack the EC, the Electoral Commission itself.
No, you're working with stakeholders. The commission is not just working alone. We receive reports, and I must say that some of the reports that we receive from the media was timely, because we were able to do something, especially in the early hours of the morning, where we received reports that maybe in one or two areas there were delay in sending materials. I think it was feedback for the commission to be proactive. You get it? So when we received these reports that because we were waiting for the summary sheets to enable the returning officer and the political parties who were in the National Collation Center to cross-check with the figures that they have from the constituencies, in order that we could announce results, certify results as soon as possible. But you realize that it delayed for a while because these were the reports we were receiving. So we had to issue a statement to the effect that these are the reports that we are receiving, and this is accounting for the delay, and therefore there are processes for resolving issues of overvoting. And if we receive the results and there's a dispute, these were the processes that the commission was going to go through in order to establish whether indeed they were overvoting or not.
Okay, another issue that became big, that became a talking point, was the issue of a possible hacking of the Electoral Commission systems. Let me just put it as the easy put it. It said it is possible that the systems had been compromised, because going into the election, you made us aware that you're going to use the manual and electronic transmission of results, but you were forced to resort to the manual system of the transmission of the results because the electronic system had been compromised. Do you want to throw some light on that for us?
Well, we had challenges in transmitting the results.
Was it a hacking situation?
I wouldn't say it was a hacking. We had challenges. I mean, it's technology, and the good thing with that is that it is the manual collation process which is in law. We sought to bring the electronic in order to just complement what we already have in law, so that at least the process will be transparent, everybody will follow it, would get the results in order to compare with the manual one. But when we realized that we were having challenges with the electronic one, we needed to make it clear out there so that stakeholders would be informed that this is the challenge that the commission is having with the electronic, and therefore we were no longer going to rely on it, but we were going to use the one that is in law, that is a manual collation from the polling station to the constituency collation center, and then the summary sheet which is always faxed to the National Collation Center. And I think the political parties were okay, they followed the process. As and when it was faxed, from the region to the National Collation Center, they did a cross-check with what they have from the constituencies, and then they signed.
So we should treat the rumor making rounds that your systems were hacked with contempt.
I don't think it was an official statement from the commission that our system had been hacked.
Yeah,
I mean,
the commission actually said your systems had been compromised. So it makes, it's justified if you make deductions and say that it was hacked.
Compromise could also mean that we were having challenges with the transmission. It doesn't mean that the system was hacked. But at the end of the day, it is the measures that are put in place to check some of these things for us to get the credibility that comes with the system. We had our manual collation. All the political parties had their copies. There were checks and balances. They were satisfied with the results that were coming in vis-a-vis, comparing it with what they had. So at the end of the day, we still had a very credible and transparent and accurate, system of collation and transmission of the results from the constituency, to the National Collation Center.
Now, we are done with elections. I mean, before the elections, when it comes to the Electoral Commission's office, the hustle and bustle here was very, evident for all to see. We're done with elections. What's next for the Electoral Commission?
After this, the commission would start reviewing all the processes, leading to the elections. From the district level, every district officer will be required to write a report, a comprehensive report from demarcation to elections. A composite report will be written by the regional directorate. Head office directors would also be required to write, reports. All these reports will be reviewed, and the processes leading to the next elections would begin.
Wow.
So that's Yusuf Ayuba. He speaks for the Electoral Commission, sharing with us what the process has been and their own assessment of election 2016. That's for the EC's assessment. But there's another strand of the post-election blues that's coming up quite strongly today. Is the aftermath of the announcement of Nana Akufo-Addo as president-elect, and it's not been too good. It's been characterized by some clashes and destruction of public properties. We begin first with the latest this morning, when the toll booth on the Ashaman end of the Accra-Tema motorway was raided by what we are learning as members of the vigilante group linked to the MPP Invincible Forces. Joy News Church revealed their action was motivated by their belief that monies collected at the toll booth were being siphoned into in the aftermath of the election. The leader of the group, Muhammad Ali, addressed journalists in Tema, justifying their action. We'll bring you that sound clip later, but let's speak to Kwame Yanka. He's been to the Tema motorway, the toll booth specific, and has gathered some information for us. He joins me now on the line. Kwame, good afternoon. What's the situation at the toll booth as we speak?
Good afternoon, Francis. Well, at the toll booth this afternoon, the situation is calm as compared to what we were learning in the morning, where the vigilante group had been to the place, as it were, to ensure that these guys, let's suppose, the attempt to siphon money before this government leaves power, no, does not take place. The police came in and ensure that, nothing untoward took place. So as I speak to you, everything is calm as I speak to you.
Police and their involvement in this matter, what have they been doing about this? Has any arrest been made as yet? Well, as to any arrest, not yet, because the police are trying to explain that if there is any arrest made, or it's likely to escalate, and that will be a different story altogether. So for now, they've been able to calmness, explain to these guys that yes, it's a new government, but then current government is yet to exit office. So if you have any concerns, you can wait, and then when the new government comes in, you can forward your concerns, or you can even channel your concerns through the police for them to act on your behalf, because there's an existing contract with the company involved. So you cannot just wake up one morning or one evening to just take over everything. There's a process in place. If they need to end a particular contract, there's a way to go about it. So you cannot just wake up with your men or mobilize your guys to storm a particular place to just take off any other thing that is taking place. So they've need to come there. They've just explained to them what they're supposed to do. No arrest was made, and as I speak to you, like I said earlier, the situation is calm. Okay. And then cars are moving in and out, because when these guys went in earlier in the day, cars which were moving towards Accra from Tema and also from Ashaman had to just just cross this booth without necessarily paying the 50 pesos or the 1 cedi which they are supposed to pay before crossing this booth. So they had occupied the place at the time. But then when the police came in and then calmed their nerves and explained to them what they are supposed to do, the situation normalized, and then these guys, the operators who are supposed to, the legitimate ones, have resumed, and then they are collecting the tolls as they are supposed to. All right. Thank you, Kwame. And we'll return for some updates later on. We'll also speak to the Tamadeshu Police Command on what they've been doing about this incident as we reported this morning. But joining us in the studio this afternoon for a quick conversation about how we manage expectations, especially of political party supporters in times like this, based on the reports we heard from Friday up until this minute. Joining us now in the studio is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman of the NDC, in the person of Joseph Adekoka. He's to my immediate left. Thank you, sir, for joining us today. Also joining us is Captain Retired Bodu Kumsen. He is a man with some experience in security, and I'm sure I'm safe to say he is a security analyst. Thank you for joining us, Captain.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess I'll start with you and pick your thoughts briefly on what we've been monitoring from last Friday up until this minute. You might call it pockets of incidences, but it's still worrying, isn't it?
Oh yes, it's worrying, and the leadership of both parties should come out strongly and issue statements for restraint.
I think both of them have done that, but it's still not stopping it.
Yeah, but that's human nature. I keep on, in management, I tell my managers, human beings are not light switches. You'll have to know how to, manage their behaviors and all these things. You see, one life lost is one life too much.
Yeah.
We have to avoid it. But you see, these things tend to be spontaneous, localized, with local characters and all these things. And that's the more reason why this is the time our police forces should actually feel stressed and overstretched. They should be all over the place. Because look, you can sit in Accra and talk, but if somebody goes to my village in Yenyano and decides to beat up somebody, it's the police guy there who has to make sure that he's on top of his issues. When they are massing up, you should see them. When they are massing up, you should see them. So both parties have to address this issue. And I think John Boadu has issued a statement.
Yes, he has.
I guess the NDC is also speaking to its
They've
people.
also issued statements.
They've also
In fact,
issued
on
a
Sunday,
statement.
they also
Fine.
released a statement.
I mean, I'm a corporate guy. I come in to help, but I have a company to run. So it's not like I'm monitoring all these things.
Yeah.
But then if they have issued those initial statements and it is still going on, maybe the higher levels, in this case, maybe the president himself, the president-elect, or the party chairmen or things, now have to come out and issue further statements to calm the sentiments down.
Okay.
It's not a light switch. It's sentiments. Look, this motorway thing, it is a mirror image of what happened when the NDC came to power the other time. Mirror image. 2018
to 2009.
Yes. And that one, it was not just a few hours like now that a few hours the police have chased them away. It was days. There was mayhem. Motorway, the toll booths, the public toilets in Ashaman, all over the place. It was mayhem. And that was almost nationwide. It took days to calm it down. I'm not justifying it. It is wrong. The police should have grown better capacity and all these things. That's why I said, look, if Ghana is going to get into problems, if Ghana is going to burn, it's the police. They have the mandate to make sure that even if a president or a presidential candidate incites people to go and cause mayhem, they can arrest him.
Okay, but the point you make drives me to this part of the conversation, and I want Mr. Adekoka to address that for me. It comes back to what politicians say to their supporters.
Precisely.
In the run-up to an election. You say, we are winning, we are coming to take over, we'll do things. Why do we always go with that line? Do we stop to think about the aftermath of these utterances and what it does to our people, bearing in mind the example it gives, that is not affiliated to only one party. There's a history to this in 2008, 2009.
Yeah,
Why do we keep seeing these things happen?
You should go back to 2001 election. That was when all this started. Before that, the NDC was in power, Jerry Rawlings' time, there wasn't anything of that sort. Then when NPP came to
it was
power,
a continuity.
No.
And from the NDC, PNDC to Rawlings' time,
Captain,
wasn't it a continuity?
Captain, let me
2001 is when these things started popping up.
Captain,
My
please.
brother, sorry.
Captain, please don't truncate my thoughts. I beg you.
Okay.
So
Mr. Adekoka.
2001, it became very rampant, where immediately NDC lost the election. Even the political elite, those who had come to power, proceed to leave, proceed on leave. Bungalows, ministers were hunted out of their bungalows. Someone like Yiti Mensah was taken to BNI cells for having said something which he never did. I mean, a whole and then all these political persecutions and
So when it happened, 2008,
and then
a repeat
exactly
happened from your own people.
Exactly.
As a beatings, you know, people are just
I know. I'm saying that it has come to a time we should put a stop to it.
Thank you.
That is why Professor Mills tried as much as possible to say no. We don't want to go back to what happened 2001. We're going to proceed on leave, those kind of. So most of the MCs and DC were in their offices for a very long time.
But the incident he raises for the Tema motorway example, the mirror example he speaks of, happened under your watch. I mean, why do these things happen? What's the motivation?
The motivation is that, like you said, what politicians they say on the platforms. You realize, if a politician say when we election take position, as for me, I know what I want. I know what position I want. You to go and take positions, and exactly that's what they are doing. People are taking positions.
So what you are saying is it's high time politicians became more responsible.
Exactly, I agree with you.
With their statements and manage the expectations of their people.
Captain.
Because we can win, but we can lose. How do we behave in both instances?
Captain, for the past, since the announcement was made, I've been able to ask our followers to keep calm. There's been so much pressure that they want also to react.
Pressure to retaliate.
To retaliate. We said no, let it. So yesterday we met the president. We told him that this is what is going on. A statement. He then issued a statement. I'm expecting the president-elect himself to speak that these things that are going on is unacceptable, unwarranted, and we need to have a peaceful country to move on. Because look, all of us are followers. All of us are followers. And like Captain said, if somebody decides to react, where are we going to end
What does it come down to? And I asked that question because in listening to the interview that we had from Ashaiman and from the Tema toll booth today, the leader who went to the toll booth to raid the place, said that they had a certain belief that the gentlemen in that toll booth were siphoning funds because there was a history to it. In 2008, a similar incident occurred. And so for them, they had a certain motivation.
Is that their job?
Is that their job? Who sent it?
Is that their job? That's a
That
company.
part, but you see, it also comes down to
you shouldn't even repeat that statement. I mean, there's rule of law in this country. It's a company running the booth, right? If they're siphoning money, it's a company whose officials who have to take responsibility about, and who tells you that you saw the siphoning money to where? I mean, don't encourage this.
I'm not encouraging it. I'm only opening up the issue to be analyzed.
So the person should be here, and then you tell me, we gave him the space for him to make those statements, and then we go on there and repeat them without arresting them.
Well, we asked the police.
That is very interesting. It comes back to the situation we've been talking about. Those of us who are not politicians, me, I'm a corporate guy. I want to be comfortable and safe in Ghana.
Exactly.
We've been complaining that the police force seems to be having a political sickness. If you are causing some mess in the system and they think that you are politically wired, they have a fear of dealing with you rigorously.
What's the fear? Reshuffle?
I don't know what it is. Look, there was this case of this guy up I think Brong Ahafo. Is it this guy who Collins Dowda's guy?
His brother?
What is the name?
I don't recall the name, honestly.
No, there's this guy who used to actually terrorize people, and he even made a tape recording that for him he kills people, and then he was in. I should forget. I should remember the name. You know, the question I was asking is that I have a friend. He's now a retired general, but then when he was Commander 3BN in Sunyani, years back, he said this guy was misbehaving. He's behaved up to the time, and there is that belief that you, the police officer, and that is, I understand the police officer said that. He said, if you don't know and you go and touch this man, you will either be transferred or you may even lose your job. So he felt, and he could brag with anything. And we watched on. You see, the issue we should know is that if you watch on and it is being done to somebody, look at your 3 fingers. If you point your finger at someone, 3 of them points to you, and 1 of them points to God, who is our referee. Be careful, because you may be on the receiving end of the problem.
Okay, so who gives these individuals the impetus to do these things?
They feel
Because obviously, if they did not have any protection, they will not dare do these things.
Precisely. Who gives the protection? If I don't have the answer, your guess is as good as mine. How would that guy have that impudence?
Yeah.
But then somebody, a trained officer has trepidation dealing with him, because somebody who can change his sleeping place might also deal with him. You see, we have a warped system for a long time, and we should now tell the police that, look, I wish Nana would make that statement, that, look, I want professionalism. I don't care which department, which place you are. If you are a policeman and you see somebody committing an offense, deal with him. But we've had this warped situation where a lot of them seem to be behaving and thinking and seeing things out of tainted lenses. So therefore, if you are in opposition, you complain. If you are in power, you don't see anything. And I'm warning our politicians and our public leaders that the shoe can be on the wrong foot one day and it will pinch you. So it is a wake-up call to all of us, especially our political leaders, because they have the platform, they have the time to talk and motivate these people, incite or excite these people, that be careful. Because it can be in the opposite direction. And we should make progress as a people. Okay. If in 2000 it happened, and in 2008 it happened, and 2016 it happened, so we Ghanaians, what is wrong? We never learn. Don't we make progress? Now, if we will learn or make progress, it's from you, the political leaders, because you have the political authority. All these security agencies take the authority from the political leadership.
Mr. Coker, let me take your point on this one. Based on his analysis, he says that it's down to you, the politicians, what you say to your people. What is your party and your leaders willing to do to help to stop this?
That's what I'm saying. For the past 5 days, we've calmed them, asked them not to do anything untoward. Precisely, because like Captain said, if I open my mouth and make a statement, on the contrary, if you are not careful, my people will invade the street. Okay. And that's not what you are looking for. We want a peaceful Ghana. Okay. So, and for me, elections are just like, one would say that, if I use it's like a football game. You go, you win, you come and try another day, and life must continue. That doesn't mean that we should start killing ourselves on the streets or chasing people or locking up offices. No, it's not the best. We've come a long way. This is not the first time you have elections in this country.
I get that point. Mr. Coker, let me just hold you briefly, because we're joined now via Skype by the spokesperson for the Tema District Divisional Police Command, ASP Juliana Obing. She's joining us via Skype this afternoon. Madam, thank you for joining us here on The Pulse. We've heard of the incidents at the toll booth in Tema. Have you been able to arrest anyone in connection with these incidents?
Well, a very good afternoon to your viewers. We haven't been able to arrest anybody as we speak.
What's the difficulty?
There's no difficulty. Let us admit that it is not every situation that calls for arrest. That is not also to say that we are not going to make arrests if the need arises. At the time of this morning, the situation was such that there was a need for us to dialogue. And after dialogue, we noticed that the situation was under control. The police was calm and had reverted to normalcy. And so then we had to come back to the office. Meanwhile, we still have men on standby to monitor the place, not just the Ashaman toll booth, but then also any other area like Afenia where we experienced such thing this morning. And then every other facility that we think would encounter such a problem.
Yes, you look at what's happened today. Men who have not been authorized to go to a toll booth, raid the place, take the money out under a certain pretext. How then do you deal with this matter as one that is not criminal and not worthy of arresting people?
I didn't mention that it wasn't worthy of arresting people, but I think that we are gradually graduating to that level where sometimes you need to dialogue, especially when you are dealing with two strong factions on the political front. It becomes important that the first thing, if it is not a very serious case, would have to be considering dialogue, and that's exactly what we did today.
And is it your assessment that this was not a serious incident?
Sorry?
I'm asking that per your assessment, are you saying you don't see this incident as one that is serious enough to warrant an arrest?
Like I mentioned earlier, it wasn't as if we couldn't have made the arrest or we didn't have that power to do that. It was just because at the time of visit, when we detailed or deployed men with almost 5 SPOs, as senior police officers to the place, we noticed that the people were ready to listen to us, because then at that particular moment, it was for us to calm situations. And so if we could speak to them for them to disperse, then it was just good enough as saying that what we had to achieve, we were able to achieve it, to bring sanity and security, law and order back to the Ashaman Tobu.
Okay, now, if this was the first time we are seeing it there, then we'll begin to say, look, it's a one-off incident, we can let it slide. But this is the second time it's happening in 8 years at that same polling booth. Some have said that if we do not deal ruthlessly with this matter, it will continue to happen. When are you going to make someone an example so this practice stops?
Well, we are not hoping to have such experience as we had today again in the region. But then if we do have such experience again, I'm sure it would affect some arrest, because, well, us, we have already spoken with these people and made them understood the reason for us to go through the process, so that even if what they said was anything to go by, we could just do it the right way and at the right time. And so, yes, looking forward, if there's a need for any arrest, which I'm very sure we will do, we will be able to do that, or we certainly will do that.
Yes, final question for me before I let one of my guests ask you another question. It's this. Some believe that the police command is unable to arrest these individuals because it has a certain political tinge. There's a fear that if you arrest these men who are clearly colored, you might be getting yourself in some political trouble. Is that what this is?
For us as a region and for us as a service, I speak for Tema region, and so I'll just concentrate on Tema region. I think that we see everybody as a Ghanaian. We do not do politics, and so we do not consider that when we have to maintain law and order and security in Tema region. And so it is not an issue of playing politics or taking part in political whatever it is, but it's not making us affect ours. What we are saying is that at every point in time, something happens, and there's the need for you, apart from your normal training, to also use other means to make sure. Let us not forget, the most important thing is for us to maintain sanity at every point in time or during every situation. That's exactly what we did today. So then, for those who are thinking that because we play politics with whatever it is, I beg to differ. We do not do that in Tema region.
Okay. Captain Mudukumsa has a quick question for you.
Yes, madam. Normally, when these guys are going to do these silly things, let me say, they are going to attack. If it was one person or two people, we would say that maybe they took us by surprise. But they normally mass up. You see the signs. I mean, they take comfort in the crowd psychology. You know, none of them would want to come with alone, knowing that he can then face the rigors of the law. So why is it that we are not able to see these things, the gathering storm, to intervene, but rather let the thing happen, and then we now try to disperse, and then suddenly, in this day and age, with mobile phones and cameras and everything, we never get one face we can identify to arrest to set as an example.
Well, in this particular case, I do agree that we still have our post-elections deployment plan effective. But then in this particular case, the police was not there at that particular time. We only had information, and just when we got the information, we moved to the place. So it was not as if we saw it coming. We do agree that, yes, in our deployment plan for the phase 3, which we presently are in the transition period, we considered a lot of things, but this, we admit, it wasn't one of the things that we considered. That notwithstanding, we still have put in place measures to avert such in the future.
So, madam, when the police got there, had they run away already, or when you got there before they left? And if you got there before they left, then there were people there. You could have held responsible at least to interview to find out whether they were the principal characters, because I understand there was even an interview. Somebody is alleging that we felt that they were siphoning money, and. Then, if they failed, did he take part in the action? If he did take part in the action, did he breach the public order law?
Like I said, just when they saw the policemen come in, some of them did disperse. There were others who still stood there, and those were the people that we engaged. And for the leadership that we met, they do admit that, well, yes, they are people. But the most important thing, like I said, was for us at that moment to make sure that we brought sanity to the place, which we did.
Okay.
For the arrest, you can be assured that if there's a need be for any arrest, Tema Regional Police has the backing of the national headquarters to do so.
All right, thank you for your time. ASP Janelle Obeng, she speaks for the Tema District Police Commander, sharing her thoughts with us on their own assessment. I'll take a final word, gentlemen, on this issue. Now this is where we are. These incidents have happened. There's a possibility that if it's not quelled in time, it can move into more serious levels. What should be done and how quickly should that happen? Let me start with you, Mr. Coker.
I think so. I think, coming from where I sit and being privileged to certain information, and the quicker we nip this in the bud is very important. But to be honest with you, Captain is here. Captain has said so many things that the political elite, the political actors, now who are about to take over, is important, and is in their own benefit that they quickly ask their members to stop what they are doing. It's not a coup situation. The coup has not taken place. It's only an election that has taken place. One as one we have considered quietly. The president considered even before the announcement was made. It shows the good intention of the NDC that we believe that this country must have a peaceful transition and move on. But this acts of hooliganism, and if we tend to have a blind eye, and like the police said, when he came there, they've run away, and this guy has made a statement, and nobody is being arrested to set an example. I can show you pictures of people who have been wounded, and I mean, it's not the best. It's not the best. We also have, with due respect, and I'm choosing the language, what do you call it, with hindsight, that we also have madmen in our midst, but we are trying to contain our mad people. That we are trying very hard to, but please, we should stop, and they shouldn't push us. It's been an army before. If you push somebody to the back, if you keep continuing pushing the back, he's going to back. And when we back, we don't know where we are going to end up.
Okay, I pray we don't get to that point, but Captain Budekum, to your final words.
Let me say that I am saddened with the developing situation, and I am confident that it can be contained if the political actors and the security agencies act resolutely. But it's interesting, my brother used a certain phrase, that it is not a coup situation. I remember, not in support, but I remember that when Professor Mills, that I think 2008, won the elections, and people were being harassed, it took Professor Mills, although had been saying, and I used to refer to him as my uncle, although had been preaching at Mayor or friends Asomidwe something, it took John Dramani Mahama, the then vice president, to state emphatically to his own people that it is not a coup situation, so they should stop harassing the people. You see where I say when the shoe fits, it doesn't sit on the right foot. It's almost a playback, but that is not an equalization game. That is an exercise in mediocrity. We should move forward. Again, I'm also appealing to us not to report it in context. If we say that people are dying, then I get a panic. I said, what happened? Then we hear that somewhere in Ekumfi, there was a clash and somebody died. But nationwide, are people dying? It is the way we report it. How widespread are these issues?
They are widespread, Captain.
It is.
Captain,
I'm coming. I'm not downplaying it, but I'm saying the way you report it will inflame or deflate your people.
Okay.
The way the press reports it will inflame passions or stabilize the system, and the way the MPP also reports it will also. All parties, the press, the police, and the political actors should all be circumspect with their language and act resolutely to make sure that this situation is doused as fast as possible.
Thank you so much for your time, Captain Budekum, for this afternoon and your thoughts on this issue. But I want to pick a quick word from you, Mr. Coker. This is unrelated to the security, but you've been regional chairman of Greater Accra, and you still are, in fact. What happened in the elections for your region, especially for the seats?
No, it's not only Greater Accra. A lot of
I mean, I am looking at it per your purview and the ambit
see,
under which you work.
I don't want us to talk about what happened on television because we are doing an introspection and we have found certain things, but we don't want to, like Captain said, we don't want to up the antenna.
Yeah.
You understand? We don't want to behave as others have behaved before, where all of a sudden a statement is made, and then that's why we say we have conceded. We know what we have observed so many things. I mean, the hacking of the EC.
Is that what caused it?
Well, no. At the polling stations, so many things happen. In certain areas, we went there. Our polling station, our agents were harassed, and I don't want to come and sit here and say something that we are yet to investigate.
Okay.
But I believe that the game, Ghanaians have made a decision. We all respect the decision.
Okay.
We should behave in a manner that nobody feels that he's under siege, and that's what Captain is calling for. All the political actors and myself that I don't want the horses to bolt from the stable before we start. Exactly. Otherwise, he wants to live peacefully. You want to live. I want to live. I don't want to be walking around in Accra with somebody smashing my windscreen.
Has that happened yet to you?
It has happened. Not me.
Okay.
Not me.
So are you taking precautions?
Precisely. I'm taking precisely.
It's interesting.
Yes.
2008, I called the national security and told them that if anybody stopped me on the highway and tried to hijack my car, I'll shoot him dead.
Exactly.
Because this, you see, it's a playback, and it is good that both sides are now experiencing
feeling it. So
and
they
now
take a decision.
they know how to behave better and manage their people better.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Joseph Adekoka is the Greater Accra Regional Chairman for the NDC. Also, Captain Budu Kumsin has shared his thoughts with us. Captain retired Budu Kumsin is a security analyst joining us this afternoon for this great conversation. After the break, when we come back, we'll look at the Central Region in focus. We'll analyze the outcome of the elections and see what went right and wrong for both parties. Details after the break. Stay with us.